See, when you talk about, let's just start. Okay. Now, see, we are going to start section 84, and 84 talks about insanity, or in other words, we can say unsoundness of mind. Okay. Now, when you talk about unsoundness of mind, this expression, unsoundness of mind, okay, this expression, unsoundness of mind, has not been defined in IPC. Okay. This particular expression has not been defined in IPC. And basically, this word, unsoundness of mind, is equivalent to sanity. Insanity, sorry. Now, what do you mean by insanity? Can anybody tell me what do you mean by insanity? Can anybody tell me what do you mean by insanity? What is insanity? What is insanity? What do you mean by insanity? Yes. Yes, Yashaswini.
Ma'am, when one person is not in his or her mental state.
But ऐसे तो intoxicated banda bhi, he cannot be in his mental state when he is a person who is drunk. At in the when that person is basically drunk, that person is also not in the state best state of his mind. Then how will you define insanity? Mental disability. Priya Kumari is saying inability to understand and act like a normal person. Okay. Anybody else? Amruta is saying, Amruta, why after such a long time? Where were you?
I wasn't feeling well.
Okay. How are you now?
I'm a little better.
Okay. Chalo, theek hai. So Amruta is saying a state of mind where a person cannot act as a reasonable man due to permanent disability. Okay, that can be said here. Sham is saying and condition of brain in which brain is not working properly. See, when you talk about insanity in a very generic, in a very layman's language, if you say, insanity is the lack of ability. Okay, insanity is a lack of ability to understand. Okay, to understand that prevents one from the mental capacity required by law. So, Yashaswini, I'm not saying that you are completely wrong, okay? But see, there are some people, for example, I will tell you that who all will be considered in unsoundness of mind, or who are the people who will not be considered as people who are of unsound mind. We will look into it, okay? But my point is that when in a very basic understanding, almost all of you who have given the answers are right. But see, when you talk about insanity in a very generic sense, okay, it's basically the lack of ability to understand that prevents from one from the mental capacity required by the law. Okay. Now, as I told you that this word unsoundness of mind has not been defined in IPC, but this is considered equivalent to insanity. Okay. And what is insanity? Insanity is the lack of ability to understand to understand that prevents one from the mental capacity required by law. Now see, before starting this particular topic, let me tell you that what all things, okay, who all are the persons who will not be considered as the insane person, okay, who will not be considered as the insane person. So basically, there are 4 kinds of persons. So there are 4 kinds of persons whom is said to be non-compass merit. Now, what is non-compass merit? These are known as not of sound mind. Okay, not of sound mind, non-compass merit. So there are 4 kinds of persons. Okay, there are 4 kinds of persons who, sorry, non-compass merit, not of sound mind. Yes. Okay. Now there are 4 kinds of persons. First is an idiot, who will be considered as of not of sound mind. Okay. By illness. Okay. A lunatic or a madman. Or a person who is drunk. Okay. Now these are the people who are not of sound mind. Now, when I said in the previously when I started with saying that, when Yashaswini said ki ma'am, this is of a person who doesn't have the ability to understand. Definitely an intoxicated person. Now I will tell you the differentiation when we will move on, when we are studying unsoundness of mind, and then when we will move on to section 85, which is intoxication. There I will give you a slight difference and what is the difference and how you are going to mitigate the circumstances in that particular sense. But abhi ke liye just see that these are the people who are not of sound mind. Okay, who are not of sound mind. There are certain exceptions which we will discuss when we will move from 84 to 85. Okay. Now, these are the 4 kinds of people who are said to be non-compass merit. Non-compass merit means not of sound mind. Okay. First is an idiot. Second is by illness. Third is a lunatic person. And 4 is a person who is a drunk person. Okay. Now, these are the 4 kinds of people who are considered to be of unsound mind or not of sound mind. Okay. Now see this particular section. Okay, this particular section is basically governed by a legal maxim known as furiosus nulla voluntas est. Furiosus nulla voluntas est. What does it mean? A madman has no will. A madman has no will. Because why we are saying that a madman has no will? Why we are saying that? Why we are saying that a madman has no will? Why we are saying this? If we see section 84, why we are saying this, that a madman has no will? Because, see, yes, Yashaswini.
Ma'am, because for a valid like contract or so there should be a correct mental state. So it lacks that essential.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Atharv is saying not capable of forming mens rea and motive. Okay. Sham is saying not in a proper condition. Yeah, to all three of you are correct to the certain extent. See, when we say that a madman has no will, in other words, we can say that a man or a person who is suffering from some mental disorder, okay, who is suffering from a mental disorder, cannot be said or cannot be said to have committed offense or committed a crime or offense, committed an offense, okay, as he does not know what he is doing. So if, for example, just take an example, a person is there, okay, there is a person, no free will because it can be influenced by anyone. Correct, Khanna. Almost correct. Okay, so when you talk about furiosus nulla voluntas est, it basically means that a madman has no will. See, if, for example, just take an example like that way, that A is a person who has this mental disorder of uh, he hallucinate a lot. Okay, he he has a lot of hallucination. He has a lot of hallucination problem, and he has a mental disorder, and he hallucinate a lot. Right now, see what exactly is happening here. When this person is hallucinating, okay, this person thinks that there is B. Okay, he is seeing B, and he thinks that this is B and this is his head. Okay, now A is hallucinating and A is thinking that, okay, if I cut his head and put it aside, okay, then it will be very funny. Okay, it will be very funny. So when this thing is happening, when A is hallucinating, and he's thinking that I will just cut the head of the bee and I will just keep it aside, he thinks that it is funny. Okay, but what is happening? He is suffering from a mental disorder. Okay, he is suffering from a mental disorder, and in this state, he cannot think, he cannot distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, because he himself does not know that what he is doing. Okay, he himself does not know what he is doing. So will you give this person a defense of unsoundness mind? Will you give defense to this person for unsoundness mind, for unsoundness of mind? Yes. Yes, because in this state of mind, he himself doesn't know that what he is doing. He thinks that if he'll cut the head of the other person and keep it aside, it will be very funny. So right now, he's not in a proper state of mind. He's not in a proper state of condition to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, right? So in this mental disorder, he cannot be said to have committed an offense, as he does not know what he's doing. So this is the state of unsound mind. This is the state of insanity. Okay, there are other examples as well. A person can be suffering from schizophrenia. Okay, a person can hallucinate. A person can, have a problem of dilemma as well. Okay, a person can get into a depression and do certain stuff. So all these are the mental disorders. Okay, so basically, if you talk about the unsoundness of mind is majorly, it talks about the mental disorders. Okay, if you see an idiot, koi pagal hai, somebody is mad. Okay, so he himself doesn't know that what he is doing. Okay, if in case a mad person goes and uh, just stab a knife, okay, and the other person is dead, then what will happen? You will give that person defense of unsoundness mind under section 84 of Indian Penal Code 1860. So this is what the thing is. So this was the brief of what unsoundness of mind is, right? Now we will move on to the Bare Act provision, that what exactly Bare Act provision is. and then we will just divide it, we will just break the section and understand that how we are going to, or how court will actually determine whether the person is of unsound mind or not. Okay, how you will, how you will establish, and how the court will establish, if in case any problem goes in front of the court, how court is going to establish and how you are going to establish that whether the person is of unsound mind or not. Okay, so let's just read the section 84 of Indian Penal Code. Right now, what section 84 is trying to tell us? Section 84 is trying to tell us act of an unsound mind, act of a person of unsound mind. Now, unsound mind is nowhere defined in IPC, but it is equivalent to what insanity is. Okay, so क्या कह रहा है? Nothing is an offense which is done by a person who, at the time of doing it, by reason of unsoundness of mind, is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or that he is doing what is either wrong or contrary to law. Now, see, I tell you one thing, this entire section is a kind of, actually, it looks very small. Okay, it looks very small, but this entire section is a bit of, confusing sections. Now, how on the face of it, you must be thinking, हाँ, ठीक है, normal, they have given us the normal definition that who will be given the defense under section 84. Okay, but let's just break this section and understand that what exactly it is trying to tell us. Okay, now the first thing this section is trying to tell us that when you talk about unsoundness of mind, okay, now please concentrate here, because this is a very tricky thing. You need to understand few things, or agar ye cheez, if you are not going to understand it, then it will be very difficult for you to understand and to establish that how you are going to give somebody defense under this section. Okay, now see, first thing kya keh raha hai? Nothing is an offense which is done by a person who at the time of doing it. So first thing keh raha hai ki, a person will be given defense. Okay, when the person is committing, okay, when the person is committing the act at the time of doing it. Okay, so that person, so nothing is an offense which is done by a person who at the time of doing it. Okay, second cheez kya keh raha hai? By reason of unsoundness of mind, by reason of unsoundness of mind. Okay, then what it is saying? Unsoundness of mind is incapable, okay, is incapable, or what he is incapable of knowing the nature. Knowing the nature of the act. And और उसके बाद क्या कह रहा है? और what he is doing. Okay, sorry, I have made this thing a bit unclear. Sorry. See, is incapable of knowing. Now, here, see what they have said, knowing the nature of the act. Okay, knowing the nature of the act, or second thing he is saying that he is doing that, what he is doing either wrong or contrary to law. Or Okay. Now see, this is fine. By reason of unsoundness, mind is fine. Is incapable of knowing the nature of the act. The part which becomes tricky is this. Now in this section, if you see very keenly, they have used or couple of times. Okay, so basically, if you see the section of section 84, you will have to get the interpretation very correct when you actually get into the establishment of who is a person. Now, how will you establish a person who is of unsound mind? Okay. Amruta, can we say a person who cannot distinguish between right and wrong? Amruta will just get onto this. Just understand this thing, because this is very tricky, and this you need to understand to for the better understanding of this particular section. Now see what they are doing. They are using or twice here. Okay. Now see, when what this section is trying to tell us, that nothing is an offense if a person who at the time of doing it by reason of unsound mind is capable of knowing the nature of the act, or that what he is doing either wrong or contrary to law. Now tell me, there are three things. Okay, on the face of it, we can say, on the face of it, we have three things. One is nature of the act, okay, which is really important. In our last section also we have seen, when it comes to the nature of the act. फिर क्या कह रहा है? That what he is doing is either wrong, okay, or contrary to law. Now the interesting part is, on the face of it, you will see it is three things. Okay, because for example, just take it that if you visit somebody's house, okay, they will ask you whether you will have coffee, tea, or milk, right? So the word is used or, right? So आप ऐसे थोड़ा ना पूछोगे that whether you will coffee or tea or milk, which is the right interpretation to ask. This is the right interpretation to ask, right? Now see what they are doing, nature of the act, or that what he's doing either wrong or contrary to law. So if in case you are going to choose one thing in this case, okay, if you are going to choose say tea, okay, so automatically coffee and milk will be excluded. Okay. Now if you are going to choose milk, coffee and tea again are going to be excluded. Now how can we say that it can be nature of the act, or that what he is doing either wrong or contrary to law? Okay. So understand it that way. For the interpretation of this particular section, this or is and here. You will use it in a sense where it is and. Okay, you are not going to use it as where you are not going to use it as or. Okay, so on the face of it, if you are going to interpret this particular section, how you are going to interpret it? You will interpret it in a sense where you will have to just look into two things. First is the nature of the act. Okay, and second, that what he is doing is either wrong or contrary to law. Actually, and contrary to law. So you will just have to prove these two things. So if you are giving any person defense under section 84, okay, if you are giving somebody defense under section 84, you are going to prove that that person does not know the nature of the act, and what he was doing was wrong and contrary to law. Okay, so you will interpret this section in this manner. You're not going to interpret it like nature of the act or that what he is doing. Okay? Either wrong or contrary law or contrary to law, right? So this is the thing. These are the two things which you are going to prove if you want to give somebody defense under section 84. Is this thing clear? Is this thing clear? Yes. Is this thing clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
will be
You will
interpreted
interpret
as
or
and.
will be and. Okay?
Okay.
Now
Yes, ma'am.
see, again a very yes, Amiksha, I'm making you the co-host. Just wait. Okay? Now the other thing you will, if you are going to see here is, 1 minute, huh? Now the other thing which you are going to see here is that this wrong will include morally wrong as well. Okay? The acts which are morally wrong, it will include, this wrong will include moral wrongs as well. And contrary to law in itself is saying that it is a legal law. It is a legal wrong. I'll give you an example and I will tell you that what exactly it is. Okay? So when you talk about, see, in our previous classes, we have already studied that moral wrongs are not punished, right? We have seen that the moral wrongs are not punished. But for the interpretation of this section, they have, they have used this moral wrong. They have included moral wrong in wrong in this particular section. Now, why they have included? When we are going to study McNaughton's case, okay? McNaughton's case is famously known as right and wrong test. Okay, right and wrong test. We will study this particular thing in detail, that why they are including morally wrong as well. When moral wrongs are not punished, then why this particular section is also including the wrong which are moral, including the wrong or including the acts which are morally wrong. Okay, we will look into this this particular thing when we will be studying McNaughton's case, right? Basically, if you see here, in a very brief sense, I will tell you that why they have included moral wrong as well. See, basically here, knowledge, okay, knowledge is required for moral wrong. Okay, so in this case, what happens? Knowledge is per se is required for a moral wrong. Okay, so if in case they are not going to include what is if they are not going to include moral wrongs in this particular thing, then the purpose of this section will get defeated. Okay, so this is one reasoning which even McNaughton's case has also given, that knowledge is required for moral wrongs. Okay, so in this case, we will look into, when we are going to go, going to go in depth, we will look into this particular part as well. Abhi, right now, just understand that this wrong include moral wrongs, and contrary to law in itself means that it is a legal wrong. So if you want to give defense to anybody under section 84 of IPC, you will have to prove that that person did not know or is incapable of he is incapable, or he is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, and that what he is doing is either wrong and contrary to law. So these are the two things. If you want to give defense under section 84, then these are the two things on the face of it. You will have to prove in the court that at the time of committing the offense, this person did not know the nature of the act, and that what he was doing is either wrong or contrary to law. Okay? And you will interpret this or here as and. Always remember. Okay? These are the two things. There are no three things which you need to prove. Because see, why I'm saying that on the face of it, you will see three things, but only two things need to be proved on the face of it. Because see, if in case you are going to see it in if you are going to, hold anybody liable for these three things. Okay, chalo, nature of the act will be justified. Okay, but what he is doing can be wrong or can be contrary to law. So see, there can be things, there can be a scenario, there can be a scene that if A is a person who, okay, who committed an offense, did not know the nature of the act. Okay, he did not know the nature of the act. But in some cases, there can be thing that they can know. Okay, or sorry, I'm saying it either ways. For example, there is a person A, okay, who committed an offense. At the time of doing that act, he know the nature of, he knew the nature of the act. Okay, chalo, ye to cheez justify ho jayegi. But when it comes to these two things, wrong or contrary to law, okay, when it comes to these two things, this person can come and say that, see, I knew that this wrong which I have committed is legally wrong. Okay, with the act which I have committed is legally wrong, but I did not know that it was morally wrong. Okay, now how will you give the defense to this person when this person did not know that this act is what act he is doing? He did not knew that it was morally wrong, but he knew that it was legally wrong. So there, at this point of time, okay, when such scenarios come in front of you, then it creates a lot of confusion. So while we are interpreting this section 84, we will always look into these two matters. So if in case a person is capable of, is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or that what he is doing either wrong and contrary to law. So if you are going to prove these two things, okay, then you can give the defense under section 84. Okay, because confusion arises. One person will say, I knew that it was morally wrong, but I never knew that it was legally wrong. Then how will you mitigate the circumstances? How will you establish that this person was was in a state of unsound mind? There it creates a lot of confusion. That is why we are not taking wrong and contrary to law. So on the face of it, we are just taking two things. That is the nature of the act, or that what he is doing is either wrong and contrary to law. Okay, is this thing clear? Is this thing clear? Chalo, let's move on and let's understand with the help of an example that what exactly I'm trying to say. Okay, now see, Raj. Okay, Raj is suffering from hallucination. चलो, ठीक है, और schizophrenia, जो भी ले लो आप, मतलब it's a kind of disease. This person Raj is suffering from some disease. ठीक है. Now someone says to Raj that go and kill Simran. ठीक है, go and kill Simran. Now what he does, Raj kills Simran. ठीक है, Raj kills Simran and stays there. ठीक है, and when he saw a police officer, say Amrish Puri, when he sees Amrish Puri, who happens to be a police officer in this story, ठीक है, this Raj runs away. ठीक है, this Raj runs away. Now what happens when Raj is being tried of the offense of murder? ठीक है, Raj takes a defense. Raj takes a defense and says that, see, Sir, I knew that this act which I have done is legally wrong. But I never knew that this is morally wrong. Okay, that this is morally wrong. Okay, now will you give any sort of a defense under this particular scenario? Will you give any sort of a defense here? Tell me. Will you give any sort of a defense in this case? Why no, guys? Why no? Why no? Yes, Ashwini.
Ma'am, I guess the defense will be given because the person Raj is not in the mental state. Matlab, he is hallucinating, so that's why he has done this act.
Yes, Ashwini. I told you that we don't have three options here. We just have two options. First, incapable of the nature of the act, incapable of knowing the nature of the act, and other one is what he is doing. What he is doing. Either morally it's a wrong, okay, or it's contrary to law. And contrary to law.
Ma'am, but he knows that it is legally wrong. So one essential was.
And what about the moral wrong? I told you, abhi I told you that we are not giving anybody a three option thing here. We are just going to see whether he was incapable of knowing the nature of the act and whether that person, what he is doing is wrong and contrary to law, not or. We are taking the interpretation of or as and. So now tell me, now just see the circumstances and tell me that whether this person will be given defense under this section or not. Yes, the second essential is proven by his statement. Then, if you look at the interpretation of this section, or if you look at the facts, why he ran away when he saw the police officer? Because he knew that it is legally wrong, but he never knew that this is morally wrong, right? And here, if you want to give defense under section 84, you will just have to see two things. That is the nature, incapability of knowing the nature of the act, and that what he is doing is contrary to law and wrong, okay, and morally wrong. So there is no defense will be given to this person here. Two things, remember two things, nature of the act or that what he is doing is either wrong and contrary to law. Okay, so here on the face of it, we are not giving three options to this person. अब एक बात बताओ, चलो एक चीज बताओ. If now we are going to give this person three options, incapable of knowing the nature of the act, okay. Second, what he is doing is wrong, or legally wrong, ठीक है, और contrary to law. चलो, ठीक है. Now, if you give this three things, ठीक है. Now tell me, if you are going to give this three things, if he choose that he is legally wrong, okay, he says that, okay, I knew that this which I have done is legally wrong. That is why he ran away when he saw the police officer, right? So if you are giving this particular thing, automatically the nature of the act and wrong will be excluded from this particular thing. And on the basis of legal wrong, he will be given a defense. So do you think that if a person who is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or he does not know whether it is a if a person is capable of knowing the nature of the act, and he does not know that whether this wrong is a moral wrong or not, he just know that it is legally wrong, will you give a person defense under section 84? See, he is saying that he is illegally wrong means that he knew the nature of the act. Okay, in itself, it is telling you that he knew the nature of the act. Now tell me whether you will give defense or not. Just on the basis of illegally wrong. Now, if you are going to give just on the basis of legally wrong, that he knew that it was legally wrong and you are giving defense to this person, then to anyone, anytime, any day will come and tell us if somebody who committed an offense of murder, then he knew that it is legally wrong. Yeah, will you give the defense of section 84 just like that? Yes or no? Yashaswini?
No, ma'am.
Correct. So इसीलिए we are going to prove two things. First, we will prove, if you are giving defense to any person, we will first of all, we will prove that he is incapable of knowing the nature of the act. Second, of whatever he was doing is either wrong and contrary to law. So both the things have to be proved in this case in order to give the defense to the person or to the accused for that matter. Correct? Yes or no? इतना समझ आया कि नहीं आया? इतना समझ आया कि नहीं आया? ओके, चलो, इतनी मेहनत तो सफल हुई. Everybody understood that what am I trying to say. Now see, let's move on to the first essential of this particular thing. Okay, I just wanted to make this thing clear so that aage when we will be dealing with a lot of examples, you guys should be able to understand that what we are trying to say. See, here is one thing more. Okay, see. I'll tell you one thing more. Okay, we have given the two options here. Okay, we have given the two options here. First, the nature of the act. And second is or that what he is doing, is either wrong, which include a moral wrong, and contrary to the law. See, if in case a person, for example, Raj is a person, okay? Raj is an accused, okay? Now, if you have proved that Raj knew the nature of the act, ठीक है, वैसे तो यहाँ पर incapable है, ठीक है. Now, if you say that Raj is capable of knowing the nature of the act, he knows that whatever he is doing, okay, he knows that whatever he is doing, he knew that he is killing the other person, so he knew that the nature of the act of whatever he was performing at that point of time. If this is proved that a person who knows the nature of the act, okay, then you will not move forward. Okay, if you have established that this person has the nature of the act, he will not be given defense under section 84. यही कहानी खत्म हो जाएगी. The story will be, the end of the story will be here itself. If you have proved that the person has knew the nature of the act, then the story is finished. You won't give any defense under section 84. Okay, but if the case is falling under this particular ambit, okay, if the case is falling under this particular ambit, okay, then you will have to prove that he knew that it was morally wrong and he knew that it was contrary to the law. You will have to prove both the things, because यहाँ पर we are taking this or as and. So you will have to prove both the things. Okay? So you will have to prove the nature of the act. And if the case falls in this particular ambit, that what he is doing either wrong and contrary to law, then this thing will have to be proved. Okay? Because there can be cases where a person may not be able to know the nature of the act, but he must know that what is morally wrong and what is legally wrong. Okay? So in this case also, you will not give defense under section 84. Okay? So this is the case. Is this thing clear? Is this thing clear, guys? Yes. Is this thing clear? Noori, Priya,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Athar,
if his
Rajnandini, Sham, Yashaswini, Amrita,
ma'am,
Amrita Biswas, Akshwata.
yes, ma'am, it's clear. I mean, if he is knowing the nature of the act, then he will not be given any defense. And if he is knowing that what he is doing is either wrong, if he doesn't know what he is doing is either wrong morally or contrary to law, he will be given defense.
Yes, yes, yes. Correct. Chalo, I'm happy that you guys got it right. You know? That's great. Okay. Now let's move forward. Okay. Now let's move forward. Okay. Chalo, let's see the first essential of this particular act, that is at the time of doing. Now see, this part becomes very essential. Okay? Because what it is exactly trying to say, that CK, what it is exactly trying to say, that a person or an accused, you can say, when that person is committing an offense, he was in a state of unsound mind. So when a person is committing an offense, क्या कह रहा है? Nothing is an offense. क्या कह रहा है? Nothing is an offense which is done by a person at the time of doing it. Okay? So at the time of doing it means when the person is committing an offense, he was at that point of time, he was in a state of unsound mind. Okay? He was in a state of unsound mind. So what happens in this case? The burden of proof. Okay? The burden of proof is on the defense. Okay? To prove that at that point of time when he was committing an offense, he was in a state of unsound mind. Okay? So the burden of proof is on defense. Okay? Not just to prove, the unsoundness of mind. So see, if in general, okay, for example, Raj was suffering from schizophrenia. Okay? He was a schizophrenic and he suffered with the attack of schizophrenia. Now what happens, that the burden of proof will lie on the defense to prove that at that point of time he was of unsound mind. Ab dekho, now why it becomes important, because the burden of proof is on the defense, and the burden of proof is on the defense not just to prove the unsoundness of mind. So for example, in the Raj case, he's not going to only prove that Raj is of unsound mind, he's a schizophrenia. Okay? But he will have to prove that the unsoundness of mind existed at the time when he committed an offense. So if a person is not of unsound mind while he's committing an offense, he won't be given defense under section 84. Amruta, I will tell you how we are going to prove that as well. Okay? So at the time of doing it, so a person, what exactly this particular words are trying to tell us? At the time of doing, matlab when a person was committing an offense, at that time he was of unsound mind. So for example, if a person, so for example, just take an example like this way, that this is Raj. Okay, he goes to the office in the morning. He's perfectly fine. Okay, now he is a patient of this thing. Now he's the patient of what do we say? Now he's the patient of schizophrenia. So Raj is in the office and he's perfectly fine. Now what happens? He goes back home. Okay, he goes back home and he suddenly had an attack of schizophrenia, and he killed someone. Okay, so see, at the time of attack, okay, while he was having an attack, he killed someone. So in this case, you will have to prove this scenario, that when he committed that offense, he was of unsound mind. Now again, it was correctly pointed out by Amruta that it is hard to prove. Now let's see how we are going to prove this. Now the second point is that how we are going to establish the unsoundness of mind in this case. Now how we are going to, establish unsoundness of mind while this person is committing an offense. Now, again, when this person is committing an offense, how you're going to establish the unsoundness of mind? It becomes very difficult, as Amruta pointed out, that it becomes very difficult to, just to prove that at the commission of the offense, he was of unsoundness of mind. Now, to establish the unsoundness of mind, we will have to look into the conduct of the accused. You will have to look into the conduct of the accused. Now, how you will look into the conduct of the accused? One, what was his conduct at the time of doing an offense? And second, which is very important, the subsequent and preceding circumstances will also be taken into consideration to establish unsoundness of mind. Unsoundness of mind. Now see, how will you establish the unsoundness of mind? Basically, you will establish unsoundness of mind by two ways. Okay. First, that what was his conduct at the time of doing an offense. and what was it, what was his conduct subsequent to the act and preceding to the act and subsequent to the act. Okay. So see, when you talk about that Raj example, okay, all of you remember the Raj example, na? Yes or no? This Raj
Yes.
example which I just gave you. Okay. If you see the Raj example, there are two things. Okay. There are two things that he ran away. Okay. Yes, Noori?
Ma'am, will be taken into consideration to
Establish unsoundness of mind.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So when we saw that Rajwala example, okay, Rajwala example in itself says that running from the police, okay, running away from police in itself shows that he has, whatever act he has done was legally wrong. Okay. Whatever act he has done is legally wrong. That is why he will not give in defense under section 84. Okay. Now see, when I talk about the person, while the when I talk about to see the conduct, okay, see the conduct of the accused, there are two things. Okay. How it can be proved? Either it can be proved by the circumstantial evidences, or it can be proved by direct evidences. Now, what can be the circumstantial evidences? That there must be people, okay, who must have seen this person Raj, okay, before the commission of the act. Okay, this person can be seen. If people can come into the court and give the witness, give the testimony that, see, we saw Raj and he was perfectly fine. Okay, he was doing great at that point of time. We don't think so that at that point of time he was in a state of unsoundness of mind. Or either you can give the direct evidence as well. Okay, so you will have to see the conduct of the accused. You will have to see that what was his conduct at the time of doing an offense. So you can have the circumstantial evidence into the picture, or else you can have the direct evidences as well. Okay, when you talk about subsequent and preceding circumstances, in itself it means that what was his conduct before he committed an offense, and what was the conduct after the offense. Now, the fact that Raj flew away, that Raj ran away while the moment he saw the police, he ran away. Okay? The moment he saw the police, he ran away. In itself says that he knew that the act was legally wrong. Okay? The act was legally wrong, and no benefit will be given under section 84. So the first essential, which is very important for you to understand, is that the unsoundness of mind should be at the time of doing an offense. While the person is committing an offense, the unsoundness of mind should be there at that point of time. Why? What is the reason why unsoundness of mind at the time of doing or committing an offense is necessary? Because in that state, the person does not know, he is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, and he does not know that what he is doing is either wrong and contrary to law. So in that particular scenario, he is totally incapable of knowing the nature of the act and what is wrong and contrary to law. So that is why if you want to give defense under section 84 to any person, okay, first of all, you will have to see that at the time of doing or committing an offense, okay, at the time of committing an offense, that person should be in unsound state. Okay? Is this thing clear? Is this thing clear? Is this thing clear? Shall we move forward? Ek minute, I have a query of Amruta. Just hold on. The fact of conduct brought a really scary case to mind, but I understood the fact of conduct after the crime. What happens if there are no witness for the same? See, if there are no, I will tell you, okay? There is a medical examination as well in this entire story, okay? When we, so basically, I will just give you a brief of this, okay? I'll just give you a brief of this. See, whenever you are, So whenever you are going to establish, okay, whenever you are going to establish the unsoundness of mind, okay, whenever you are going to establish the unsoundness of mind, okay, first you will have to prove the medical unsoundness or insanity. Okay, medical unsoundness or insanity. Or unsoundness and insanity is one or the same thing. Okay. So first thing which you need to establish is insanity, medical unsoundness. Okay. The second thing which you need to establish is legal unsoundness. Okay. And there are words which says that there should be a medical unsoundness. Okay. Now, what are the words? Let's just see. Nothing is an offense which is done by a person who at the time of doing it by reason of unsoundness of mind. By reason. So this particular medical unsoundness will give you the reason that why this person committed an offense, or under whether that person was of unsound whether that person was in a state of unsound mind while he committed an offense. So this particular thing. So when you talk about, just hold on. Just hold on. Amrita, just wait. I'm giving you everything. Just wait. Sorry. Okay. So if you examine this particular section carefully, okay, the first step to examine, okay, is medical unsoundness. Now, medical unsoundness, basically a doctor's opinion will be here. Okay, a doctor's opinion will be here. So basically it is distinguished with medical unsoundness and legal unsoundness. So first of all, the first step to establish the unsoundness of mind is the medical unsoundness. A doctor will come and doctor will say, yes, this person is suffering from so-and-so disease. He will have a lot of tests, etc., etc. Now, if you read this section, okay, how you are going to establish that a person will have to get into this particular doctor's opinion? The words are by reason. Okay, by reason of unsoundness. Okay, by reason of unsoundness. When you go for a medical unsoundness, okay, there you will have to go to the doctor and doctor will give his opinion whether this person is medically fit or unfit. Okay. Now, but when you comes to the first step of medical unsoundness, see, this is basically a reason. Okay. This gives you a reason why a person or whether a person was in the state of unsound mind when he committed an offense. But this particular examination on the basis of medical, okay, this particular examination is not a sufficient defense. Because if you see on the face of it, it is just telling you that this person is having some problem. This person is having some mental disorder. But when you see the word at the time of doing this act, when you see the word at the time of doing it, okay, you will have to prove the second step as well. That is legal unsoundness. Now a doctor will come and doctor will give a report. Okay, this person is mentally unfit. This person is he's not mentally stable. He can do such act. But how will you prove that that person was at the time of doing or at the time of committing an offense, he was in the state of unsound mind? Now, if you see a person of schizophrenia, okay, the attack can come at any point of time. Okay, the attack can come at any point of time. It's not necessary that when a person is committing an offense, at that point of time he is having an attack. He can take a defense कि हाँ ठीक है पहले भी I was suffering from this disease, but you know this disease are not completely curable. Okay, it can happen anytime, right? It can happen anytime. But to prove, after you prove the medical unsoundness, you will have to get into the legal unsoundness. Okay, and what is the legal unsoundness? Incapable of knowing the nature of the act. Okay, incapable of knowing the nature of the act and what he is doing. Is either wrong or contrary to law. So this is the very first step which you will go through, that is medical unsoundness. Okay, this is the very first step which you will go through when it comes to medical unsoundness. Now, and the second step is legal unsoundness. Now, when you talk about legal unsoundness, the word which represents the legal unsoundness is incapable. Okay, and this is basically a consequence. So first of all, there has to be a reason. Okay, there has to be a reason. Okay, so basically there has to be a reason, and after that you will have to see the consequence, that what was the consequence. So basically, because of this medical unsoundness, if you see here, if I conclude here, okay, because of this medical unsoundness, the legal unsoundness is created. Okay, so because of the medical unsoundness, so medical unsoundness is the reason, and because of the reason of the medical unsoundness, the legal unsoundness is created. So if a doctor says कि नहीं यार इसको तो कोई problem ही नहीं है, he doesn't have any problem, automatically the defense will not be given under section 84. But if doctor says that yes, he has some problem, he has some mental disorders, then you will look into the legal unsoundness. So first of all, we will get it confirmed that through a doctor, we will go for a doctor's opinion, whether this person is actually suffering from something or not. Then we will go and mitigate the circumstances, whether he knew the nature of act while he was doing the act, or whatever he is doing is either morally wrong and contrary to the law. So this is what the thing is. So the first step is medical unsoundness, and the second step is legal unsoundness. Because in the medical, when you went to the medical or medical unsoundness, the doctor opinion is this, that yes, he is suffering from some of the other disease. Then you will then automatically the legal unsoundness will be created. Okay, so first of all, the medical examination and the word which are there in the act, which interpret that it can be, you can establish it by the medical unsoundness, is by the reason of unsoundness. And when you talk about legal unsoundness, the word incapable in itself says that. So when you usually go to the medical unsoundness, this is not a defense in itself. So if a person, if someday I get to know that I have some mental disorder, okay, that does not give me right to just go and do any of the acts, right? To prove or to be given a defense under section 84, if the medical unsoundness or if the doctor's opinion is saying yes, that this person has a medical unsoundness, then only the legal unsoundness will be created. Is this thing clear to you guys? Is this thing clear to you guys?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a
Question तो
question.
नहीं है?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, Noori.
Ma'am, slide 7, I suppose. Yes, ma'am. Slide 7. I have a question. Ma'am, the 3 options. Kindly explain, ma'am. The 3 options. Slide
These
7.
are the 3 options. Option number 1,
No.
number 2 and option number 3. ठीक है? I said coffee, tea or milk. If I choose tea, coffee and milk will be automatically excluded. Then it is tea, right?
मैम
हाँ,
यहाँ से समझ आया मैम, स्लाइड 7 में मैं वो अच्छा से सुन नहीं पाई थी।
okay.
स्लाइड 7 में हाँ,
हाँ,
यहाँ पे 3 ऑप्शंस, नेचर ऑफ द एक्ट, whether he is doing is wrong, and right मैम is and जो हम इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं तो
and legally
मतलब
wrong. So we will
legally-
look into 2 options only. We are not going to give that person 3 options. Kyunki if you are going to give 3 options, then automatically the other 2 options will be excluded. Okay? So on the so we are going to see the nature of the act, whether that person was capable or incapable of knowing the nature of the act, and second, what he is doing is wrong and legally is morally wrong and contrary to law. Okay?
मैम तो आपने तो कहा था कि हम लोग और को एंड में करेंगे तो
हाँ, तो मेरा यहाँ पर नूरी सिर्फ ये कहना था कि we are not giving 3 options here. We are going to give only 2 options. ठीक है? We are just going to give 2 options, that is nature of the act and what he is doing is wrong and legally wrong. ठीक है? That is what I said. Okay?
हाँ मैम, और 2 ऑप्शंस होने से तो ये हो गया कि नेचर ऑफ द एक्ट एंड
What he is doing is either wrong and contrary to law.
contrary to law. तो 3 ऑप्शंस होने से क्या होगा मैम? 3 ऑप्शंस होने से
मैम,
नेचर
अगर
ऑफ
3
द एक्ट
options,
होगा,
हाँ,
नेचर ऑफ द एक्ट हुआ, फिर हो जाएगा what he is doing is legally wrong and
or morally wrong.
और morally wrong. अच्छा, तो मैम आप और नहीं लगाएंगे तो मतलब
And लगाएंगे.
and
हाँ, so दो ही circumstances है इसको mitigate करें. ठीक है?
थैंक यू मैम.
Yeah, so guys, it's already 6:50, है ना? You guys have next class at 7. So please don't forget to fill your feedback forms. I'm not receiving any of the feedback forms, and it's a request. Please fill your feedback forms. And if you have any doubts, yes, you can write it. We can discuss it tomorrow in the class. And Samiksha, the unsoundness of mind is going to be continued tomorrow.
Okay, ma'am.
Chalo. Okay, guys.